Welcome to the Lowdown. This is an AI-generated open-source news summary for general informational awareness. This product is not intended for use as official intelligence. The views expressed here are solely those of the cited authors and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Department of War, the United States Air Force, or any other U.S. government agency.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So, imagine if a rogue group could just shut down Amazon, Google, your whole internet connection, really not by hacking a mainframe, but by simply threatening a single stationary boat in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, it sounds like a movie plot, honestly.
It really does. But today we are looking at how the world's biggest superpowers are effectively being held hostage by cheap drones and, well, geographic bottlenecks. Welcome to this specialized deep dive.
Glad you're here with us.
We are cutting through all the noise to deliver a formal, neutral, and strictly factual analysis of what is a rapidly shifting global security landscape. We're crossing 5 areas of responsibility, or AORs, focusing on how asymmetric tactics, where, cheap, scrappy tech takes on billion-dollar militaries, are basically rewriting the rules of defense.
It is a massive structural shift.
Exactly. So let's start with our mission briefing. What is the bottom line up front?
The U.S. CENTCOM area of responsibility is suspended in a fragile 72-hour diplomatic window as Iran institutionalizes both an economic and digital blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. In the Indo-Pacific, Beijing's assertion of superpower parity is driving a rapid militarization of regional choke points by allied forces. The global economic fallout from these overlapping crises has forced tactical compromises, such as extending Russian oil sanctions waivers, while nations rapidly integrate asymmetric drone and electronic warfare lessons from the battlefields of Ukraine and the Middle East.
Okay, wow. So let's unpack this core crisis in the Middle East first, because what's happening right now between the U.S., Israel, and Iran is really the epicenter of current global volatility.
Right, it's driving everything else.
Based on reporting we're seeing from the war zone in Al Jazeera, the president has paused imminent kinetic strikes against Iran. This pause establishes a 72-hour diplomatic window, which was specifically requested by Gulf Arab leaders from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
Yeah, they are trying to de-escalate.
But I do want to flag a developing claim here for you. Note that while this pause is active, the U.S. administration maintains it is fully prepared for a large-scale assault if negotiations actually fail.
And that diplomatic brinkmanship is playing out against a totally new operational reality on the water. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has established what they are calling the Persian Gulf Strait Authority.
Wait, an authority? Like a formal government body?
Exactly. They aren't just, harassing ships in the dark anymore. They are attempting to formalize a blockade by aggressively tolling international maritime traffic. Newsweek and the Institute for the Study of War note they're doing this using a cryptocurrency-backed maritime insurance system. They literally dubbed it Hormuz Safe.
Hormuz Safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is a highly calculated attempt to institutionalize Iranian control over international waters.
Which obviously directly contravenes the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Precisely.
And here is where it gets really wild, because they are expanding this tolling tactic from just physical shipping lanes to digital data. Ars Technica has this fascinating report detailing how the IRGC is now extorting U.S. tech giants, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft.
Which it wouldn't normally associate with naval blockades.
Right. But they are demanding literal licensing fees for access to vital subsea internet cables, specifically the Falcon and AAE1 lines.
And the mechanism they're using to do this is what makes it so tactically brilliant and frankly terrifying. It's called a denial of repair tactic.
Right, because subsea cables aren't magical. They break and they need maintenance.
Exactly. Fixing them requires highly specialized repair ships, like those operated by Alcatel submarine networks. Those ships have to sit perfectly stationary in the water for days at a time while they splice fiber optics.
They can't move at all.
No, they are sitting ducks. So the IRGC is effectively trapping these ships, denying them safe passage in a war zone unless the tech giants pay these crypto fees.
It's like closing a physical shipping highway and a digital superhighway at the exact same geographic pinch point.
It's a dual-threat choke point.
And so the tech companies in Gulf nations are reportedly scrambling for overland fiber alternative through Iraq and Turkey. But honestly, if you trade a maritime choke point for highly unstable overland routes through active conflict zones,
You're just trading one massive geopolitical vulnerability for another.
exactly, you're trading maritime risk for terrestrial risk in the Middle East. It merely changes the vector of the threat. It doesn't actually eliminate it.
And this exact structural insecurity is driving massive regional realignments. Take Pakistan, for example. Reuters published an exclusive report showing Pakistan has actually deployed 8,000 troops to Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow, 8,000. That's significant.
It is. This is under a 2025 Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement. But it's the hardware that really matters here. They brought a full squadron of Sino-Pakistani JF-17 Thunder fighter jets and a Chinese HQ-9 long-range surface-to-air missile system.
So we are seeing non-Western, specifically Chinese, technology being heavily integrated into the defense of Gulf infrastructure?
Yes, because that infrastructure is under active threat. The Warzone and ISW note that a suspected Iraqi proxy drone recently penetrated the outer defenses of the UAE's Baraka nuclear energy plant.
Wait, it hit a nuclear plant?
It struck an electrical generator on the periphery, yes.
Wow. Striking anywhere near civilian nuclear power is a massive escalation. It shows that proxy warfare is no longer confined to strictly military targets.
Absolutely. And in response to these broader operational demands, Israel is expanding its footprint as well. We're seeing reports originally from the New York Times indicating Israel has established at least 2 clandestine forward operating bases deep in the western Iraqi desert.
In Iraq, what are they doing there?
These hidden outposts are reportedly being utilized to support combat search and rescue operations for their ongoing air campaigns in the region.
Meanwhile, Allied forces are already preparing for the absolute nightmare of cleaning up this mess in the Gulf. Naval News reports Italy has forward-deployed Gaeta-class mine countermeasures vessels to Djibouti.
So they're getting ready for the aftermath.
Exactly. They are anticipating post-truce mine clearance in the Strait of Hormuz. And for anyone listening who doesn't know, clearing naval mines isn't just dragging a net behind a boat.
Right, it's highly technical.
Modern mines sit on the seafloor and listen for the specific acoustic and magnetic signatures of certain ships. Clearing them in a narrow, contested choke point like Hormuz is painstakingly slow, dangerous work.
It is incredibly resource-intensive. And while that preparation happens in the Gulf, the eastern Mediterranean remains highly volatile as well.
What's happening there?
Well, the Israeli Navy intercepted the Global Samud flotilla off the coast of Cyprus, detaining activists attempting to deliver aid to Gaza. We need to distinguish the operational stances here objectively.
Right.
Israel officially asserts this was a lawful enforcement of its naval blockade, while international human rights groups label the interception as unlawful.
In a related diplomatic move, Al Jazeera notes the EU has officially sanctioned extremist Israeli settlers amid surging violence and military raids in the West Bank.
It's just volatility on every front.
It is. So if we pull back, the Middle East is currently teaching the world that you don't need a massive traditional navy to control a global choke point. You just need cheap drones and geographic leverage.
And nobody is watching that lesson closer than Beijing. Which brings us to our second AOR, the Indo-Pacific.
Right, let's pivot there. The overarching theme in the Indo-Pacific right now seems to be a fundamental structural shift in defense.
Exactly. Based on our open source intelligence summary, during the recent Trumpiana summit, the People's Republic of China overtly asserted superpower parity with the U.S.
Superpower parity, so officially claiming equal footing.
Yes. Furthermore, Beijing explicitly framed the annexation of Taiwan as a non-negotiable right. The summary notes that the current U.S. administration's highly transactional security posture is generating acute anxiety among regional allies in Indo-PACOM.
Which is prompting them to independently and rapidly harden their own defenses. We are seeing that hardening in response to some very specific and frankly bizarre Chinese tactics.
Bizarre is a good word for it.
The intelligence summary details that the People's Liberation Army has deployed over 500 repurposed J-6W unmanned aerial vehicles. Now I have to stop and ask about this.
Sure.
Because the J-6 is literally a 1960s-era jet. It's 60-year-old scrap metal. How does deploying a fleet of obsolete, remote-controlled museum pieces act as a viable threat against modern, billion-dollar air defenses?
It comes down to the brutal economic logic of saturation attacks. The PLA has basically hollowed out these old jets and turned them into massive, low-cost cruise missiles.
Okay, but they can't evade a modern radar, right?
They don't need to. Their entire purpose is to force Taiwan to use its highly expensive, numerically limited Patriot interceptor missiles on these cheap decoys. It's an asymmetric cost exchange strategy.
Oh, I see.
By exhausting the advanced air defenses on obsolete airframes, they open a window of vulnerability for their modern stealth aircraft and ballistic missiles to follow through completely unhindered.
Wow. Using a $2 million Patriot missile to shoot down a scrap metal drone is like, well, it's like using a Rolex to hammer a nail.
That is a perfect analogy.
Eventually, you run out of watches, and the other guy still has a bag full of nails.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. And Allied forces are implementing their own choke point strategies in response to this, right?
They are. The U.S. Marine Corps 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment deployed the NNSIS system to battalions in the Philippines to simulate choke point control.
And for you listening, NMESIS is essentially strapping advanced anti-ship missiles onto unmanned, remote-controlled trucks that can hide in the island weeds.
Right. It's a perfect example of A2AD, anti-access area denial. They are creating a no-go bubble for enemy ships. Japan is doing the exact same thing, deploying Type 88 surface-to-ship missiles to the Nansei Islands to expand their own A2AD envelope.
And this militarization extends straight up to the Korean Peninsula, doesn't it?
It does. North Korea is actively integrating drone warfare lessons learned from the war in Ukraine directly into the tactical doctrine of the Korean People's Army. Concurrently, they are expanding physical fortifications along the demilitarized zone to formally enforce their new two-state policy.
I'll flag another developing claim from the ISW on that front. South Korea is evaluating phased participation in the U.S.-led maritime freedom construct.
But they're in a massive bind with that.
Huge bind. They have to balance their critical need for Middle Eastern energy security against the diplomatic risk of actively antagonizing Iran by joining a U.S. naval coalition.
That integration of Ukrainian battlefield lessons by North Korea actually provides a perfect transition into our third AOR, the European and Eurasian theater.
Because that's where those lessons are originating.
Exactly. According to Ukrainska Pravda, Russia and Belarus have initiated joint tactical nuclear combat deployment exercises. But what really stands out is that these drills practice the rapid deployment and preparation of nuclear munitions from, quote, unprepared locations.
Wait, unprepared locations, which means they aren't using traditional, highly monitored nuclear silos.
Right.
They are practicing rolling mobile launchers out into random forests or highways to fire them, which serves as a highly visible, coercive signal directed at NATO.
Precisely. Ukraine, meanwhile, is executing an expansive asymmetric deep strike campaign targeting the Russian defense industrial base.
We've seen a lot of that recently.
Yes, recent strikes have hit the Elma Technopark in Zelenograd and the Tuapse oil refinery. To support these operations, the ISW reports Ukraine has deployed its newly domestically produced 250-kilogram precision glide bomb known as the Virovnuvak, or Equalizer.
Equalizer, okay.
It significantly expands their ability to conduct battlefield air interdiction from a safe standoff distance.
And the spillover from this conflict continues to challenge NATO airspace directly. The Aviationist reports a recent incident where Romanian F-16s had to intercept and destroy a rogue Russian drone that violated Estonian airspace.
Which highlights the geographic spread of the threat.
Yeah, and looking beyond Europe, Russia is making moves globally. Moscow is actively exploiting the U.S. AFRICOM posture reduction in Africa to secure critical mineral extraction operations.
They are heavily pivoting toward Africa.
They're even recruiting African nationals for frontline combat operations in Ukraine.
And technologically, Russia is also advancing its fifth-generation manned-unmanned teaming, or MUMT, integration. This was recently cited via a new two-seat variant of the Su-57 Felon stealth fighter.
MUMT, okay, let's explain that.
It's essentially where a human pilot in a fighter jet acts as a quarterback, simultaneously flying their jet while controlling a swarm of autonomous combat drones around them.
Wait, let's pause on that because there is a massive dichotomy here.
How so?
Well, on one hand, according to the reporting, Russia is struggling with severe basic labor shortages at home. They have to recruit foreign nationals to fill trenches, and they are completely failing to defend their domestic oil refineries from cheap Ukrainian drones.
Right.
Yet simultaneously, they are pouring billions into sci-fi, fifth-generation stealth aircraft controlling drone swarms.
It is a striking contradiction. It reflects a clear prioritization of high-end strategic signaling over foundational systemic resilience.
That makes sense. And that Russian global reach is now directly impacting our fourth AOR, the Western Hemisphere, specifically the U.S. Southcom area.
This is a critical development.
It really is. Classified intelligence reported by Axios and the open source summary confirms that Cuba has acquired an arsenal of over 300 Russian and Iranian attack UAVs. These systems are sitting roughly 90 miles from Florida, directly threatening U.S. assets.
The reporting adds an even more volatile layer to that, noting that Iranian military advisors are currently operating within Cuba right now.
And the U.S. response has been severe, hasn't it?
Very. The CIA director reportedly delivered a kinetic ultimatum demanding Cuba expel these foreign adversaries immediately. On the legal front, the U.S. Department of Justice is preparing an indictment against Raul Castro regarding the historical 1996 shootdown of civilian aircraft.
Wow, going back to 96. Sticking with aviation in the Western Hemisphere, we must objectively report a severe aviation safety incident. The U.S. Navy lost two EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft in a mid-air collision near Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho during an air show.
A terrible incident.
Fortunately, all 4 crew members successfully ejected and were safely recovered. But for context, the Growler isn't just a standard fighter jet. Its primary weapon is jamming pods.
Right. Its job is electronic warfare.
Exactly. It flies into contested airspace and completely blinds the enemy's radar and surface-to-air missiles. Losing 2 of them, even in a training accident, is a notable loss of highly specialized electronic warfare capability.
Which actually brings us perfectly to our final section, the overarching strategic enablers tying all these global conflicts together, specifically technology and global economics.
Technology really is the ultimate pivot point here.
It is. The Defense Blog reports the U.S. Navy just awarded a $991 million contract to Lockheed Martin. This is to upgrade the electronic warfare capabilities of the global F-35 fleet, ensuring Allied forces maintain interoperability against the rapidly advancing radar systems of near-peer adversaries like China and Russia.
But alongside that high-end, billion-dollar electronic warfare, militaries are desperately scrambling for low-end tactical solutions to the drone problem we've been talking about.
They have to. The math demands it.
Right. The Aviationist reports the UK Royal Air Force rapidly deployed something called the APKWS, the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, onto their Typhoon fighters operating in the Middle East. Now, looking at this, the APKWS is basically just strapping a laser seeker onto an old, unguided Hydra rocket.
That's exactly what it is.
Why is the military suddenly so excited about outfitting modern jets with slightly upgraded old-school rockets?
Because it directly fixes the exact cost exchange nightmare you mentioned earlier with the Rolex and the nail. The APKWS converts a dumb rocket into a laser-guided munition for a fraction of the cost of a traditional missile.
Oh, I see.
It provides a low-cost, high-capacity solution to neutralize cheap drone swarms. Without systems like this, militaries are forced to deplete multi-million-dollar interceptor stockpiles, such as the Brimstone or Patriot missiles, on drones that cost a few $1,000s to make. It is an economic solution to a tactical problem.
And speaking of economics, the ultimate strategic enabler of everything we've discussed today is the global energy market. If you are listening to this and wondering why any of this matters to your daily life, look no further than the gas pump.
Everything comes back to energy.
Always. Al Jazeera reports that to mitigate the severe global energy shocks caused by Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. Treasury Department just extended sanctions waivers. These waivers, extended through mid-June 2026, legally allow the continued purchase of Russian seaborne crude oil.
It perfectly illustrates how conflicts in one area of responsibility directly compromise grand strategy in another.
It really does.
To summarize the operational significance of today's deep dive, the overarching theme across the globe right now is the weaponization of choke points. Whether we are analyzing physical maritime straits like Hormuz, subsea digital data cables, or the asymmetric cost exchange of drone warfare exhausting air defenses, the mechanics of conflict have fundamentally changed.
And defense postures are just scrambling to keep up.
Exactly. Defense postures in the Middle East, the Indo-Pacific, and Europe are shifting in real time to adapt to these new asymmetric realities.
We'll leave you with a final thought to mull over. Consider how the entire global economy is dependent on a physical infrastructure that was built for peacetime efficiency, not wartime resilience.
That's a crucial distinction.
It is. Our supply chains assume the oceans are safe and the internet cables are secure. If a few cheap drones and a newly invented administrative tolling authority can literally force superpowers to compromise their grand strategy, like the U.S. being forced to waive Russian oil sanctions just to keep the lights on and gas prices down, our traditional metrics of military dominance becoming obsolete in the face of asymmetric disruption.
It's the defining question of modern defense.
It absolutely is. Thank you for joining this formal briefing of the Lowdown. Stay vigilant.